Page 46, theme from the Surprise Symphony, a very famous piece of music by Haydn. Again, I'd encourage you just go listen to recordings of the Surprise Symphony. They're introducing a new symbol, a staccato mark. A staccato, they show you up above, is simply a dot above or below the note. It doesn't matter if it's above or below, that's not important, but it's a dot above or below a note. And that means you disconnect the notes. You see, in music, we have two flavors here. This is part of articulation, by the way. We've already had legato, or connectum, and now we get staccato or disconnect them. And those are the flavors. You can connect them or you can disconnect them. That's it. Take your pick. There's different kinds of staccato. That is, how short is short. But we'll deal with that now. Right now, we're going to pretend it's short, really short. Each note that needs a staccato needs its own dot, and you'll see them all over the place. Let's look at Surprise Symphony. I like to look at the music, not their stuff. And you'll see these eighth notes, each one has a dot. That tells you you're going to play them short, disconnected. I should say, it tells you that you're going to play them disconnected, and when you get into the interpretation and all that, that'll tell you how short you're going to play them. For right now, you're going to play them short. Just take my word for it here. Now the technique for that, there's a couple techniques. There's a few techniques. The one we start with is a wrist or hand staccato. Depends on what country you're from. And that's where you're flexing at the wrist. The arm is still and you're flexing at the wrist. And if you can, you're on the key and you just play it and bounce off. Boom, 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 boom. That's a staccato. Here at the symphony, I'm on the key and I just bounce off. Quarter note's not staccato. Just nice and short. We'll get to the other techniques for staccato later. Let's just work on this now. And you can do this with a pentascale if you want. When you're warming up or practicing a pentascale, play those staccato. Try that. I do the staccatos when I do the articulation. At first, I want to connect everything. So I ignore those little dots right now. Let's look at this theme from Surprise Symphony. It's 2 lines long, treble and bass clef, 2/4 time. This is the first time we've had a 2/4 time, but again, it doesn't matter what the time signature is as long as you understand what the numbers mean. The top number tells you how far to count. Now we're only counting to 2, and we're still counting quarter notes because the 4's on the bottom. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, like a clock. We have eighth notes, so it's going to be 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Let's take this one hand at a time, make sure we got the notes here. Starting with the right hand, the thumb is on middle, C here, or here. So it's just 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Then the left hand plays that, and that's about it actually. Left hand, well, you're starting down here. 1, and you're playing the same notes the right hand's playing. However, in the third measure, while the right hand's playing, you got to come up here. You got to move the hand and just move it. You move it any time during that measure you need to, but make sure it's there before you need to play that B. And then at the end of that line, they want you to come back down here. I'm going to suggest, because now we're moving the hand around a little bit, we have to consider that. So if we didn't have enough to think about, now we're thinking about moving the hands. Going up isn't hard because you got a whole measure rest. You got plenty of time to just move up there. But at the end of the line, going back, you do not have time to come back down here. There's no rest or anything. So I'm going to suggest, when you're in that last measure, the first line, you're here. Instead of using third finger, here, use second. This way, all you got to do is just reach down a little bit to get the C. So we're sort of in this position. So again, to start the last line, or to start the piece again, left hand, you're here, and then during the rest, you come up here. But put the index finger on that. Now go on. And then you can collapse. And if you want to, do that again. Just a 2-1. And during the rest there. But if you do this, you don't have to move the hand because your hand is in this position. The fingering style I use, and there's different fingering styles, and teachers teach different ones. That's okay though. But the fingering style that I use and teach, one of the principles of it is I don't move the hands when I don't have to. So I can finger this way on these notes. I don't have to move the hand. I got them all. But if you want to keep this 5-finger position going, that's up to you, but you're going to start getting out of it, so I would encourage you to try this. So put the hands together. You're playing the same notes. And as you're playing the right hand, move the left hand. Now down. You get the idea? Once you can do the notes and the rhythms, okay, then we do the articulation. And here we have staccatos and accents. There's no slurs or nothing. So I'm going to flex at the wrist. I'm on the key and I'm bouncing off. I put it back on the key if I can. If you're going quickly, you don't have time to put it on the key. You got to do this. But if you got to do this, make it a small this. Don't go wah, 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 wah. But here we go slow, so we can put it on there. And then at the end, you get a staccato and an accent on the last note. You just play the last note a little louder, but it's still staccato. After the articulation, then I do the dynamics. Well, this thing is soft here. That's both hands here. The whole thing is soft until the very last note is loud. With an accent, makes it very loud. And in the actual symphony, when you hear it, the orchestra's playing really sweet and soft like that, and then all of a sudden there's a real loud bang, a loud chord right in the middle of it. That's why it's called the Surprise Symphony, because it throws everything, doesn't it? That's what we're doing. The last note is very loud. Speed, well, that's up to you. Lightly is not a speed. It's a mood. Keep it light. We have a note there underneath the third measure. Circled number means you change hand position. That's not a part of music. That's not part of music notation. That's just Faber's way of telling you you're moving hand positions. That's what this author is doing. So don't expect to see circled finger numbers in music anywhere. It doesn't happen. You have to figure out you got to move. If you want thumb on that B when you've been down here, you got to move. Let's play this together slowly and make sure you have the right notes and rhythms. I'll give us 2 counts because it's in 2/4 time. Now again, because we're playing 8th notes all over the place, I put the metronome on 8th notes, so it's beating 8th notes here. 1 and 2 and. So like that. But I'm going to give us 2 quarter notes. I'm going to say ready and go and then we go. Ready and go and.